Since 2008, a program sponsored by John Jay's Prisoner Reentry Institute has been quietly helping young people who've been in trouble with the law to turn their lives around. The Justice Corps hasn't gotten a lot of attention from most New Yorkers, but if you ask anyone in the neighborhoods where these young people live, the impact has been dramatic. A report last June on the program, which is supported by the Mayor's Office for Economic Opportunity and the New York City Young Men's Initiative, provided some hard facts. Of the 211 individuals who graduated last year since the program was retooled, over half found paying jobs or entered educational or vocational training courses. But statistics don't tell the whole story. Participants worked in community projects across the 5 boroughs, ranging from renovating churches to creating urban gardens. And an overwhelming number reported that the program not only gave them job skills, but provided a sense of self-respect and confidence they'd never experienced before. So why has the Justice Corps worked so well? To help us answer that question, we're pleased to welcome someone with first-hand experience, a recent graduate of the program. Laruba Hari, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you. So if I went out to any of us went out to the neighborhood, say in Bed-Stuy, where a Justice Corps group is working, what actually would we see? How would we know that it's different from what we'd see ordinarily in the street?
You would see approximately 15 to 20 young adults having so much fun cleaning up our neighborhoods, making people aware of our community, and passing out Know Your Rights pamphlets.
And passing out Know Your Rights pamphlets.
Passing out Know Your Rights pamphlets.
That's a little bit different from just groups of guys hanging out and listening to music.
It's totally different. You know, we tend to have a lot of fun when we do our community benefits project. It looks like we may be out there, you know, causing a little trouble, but it's harmless fun. We're cleaning up our community. We're having fun doing it. It's team building, and we're community building.
So that must surprise a lot of people in the neighborhood. They might say, what's going on here?
Yeah, and that causes a lot of questions. Curious community members, they ask a lot of questions. And when we actually tell them what we're doing, why we're out here, the purpose on why we're out here, all of them want to join. Everybody wants to be a part of it, and it changes the views on how we're viewed upon.
But all these guys have been in trouble with the law before.
There is a stigma, yes, there is a stigma, but that's why we're out there. We're here to change the views on how people view us and how we can interact with the community.
How does it do that? Just by cleaning up the street. I mean, your program in Bed-Stuy that you were involved with in 2016 was called
Speak Up Cleanup Initiative. Yes.
And what was it all about? What did you do?
Oh, well, half of the team, before I say that, we will all take turns on our roles. Half of us will be cleaning up the streets with either brooms, scoops, and garbage bags, and the other half of us will be passing out the Know Your Rights pamphlets, passing out the community pamphlets on the community events. And maybe like 1 or 2 of us will be spokespersons, grabbing people's attention, going into local-owned businesses, and just really putting our name out there and telling them this is why we're here. We would love for you guys to help any type of way, just for the support.
And why do you think a program like this really makes a difference?
It makes a big difference because it changes people's views. It changes not only the community, but the alumni. It changes the corps members' views on how they view themselves, how they view the community, how they view the police, and how they view the whole world, as a matter of fact.
What did it do for you?
What did it do for me is that it took me from one spot to the next. It took me from being an employee to now wanting to become a boss. Thinking for Change was one of my favorite workshops in Justice Corps. It actually taught me to meet people where they're at. It actually taught me to start thinking about myself in a different way, giving me more confidence, giving me more self-esteem that I can go out there and do anything, and anything is possible.
How would you characterize yourself before you joined the Job Corps? Someone heading for trouble or someone?
I would say I was on the cusp
without
of both. On the cusp of both. I was so confused with what's going on, and with everything that's going on, especially in this country in this day and age, it's just that sometimes you may feel like it's no hope. I didn't have a safe space to go to, and Justice Corps gave me that safe space. Justice Corps changed me from wanting to work in a McDonald's to now wanting to own a McDonald's. How can I own the McDonald's and have my own employees? You know, that's the think of it for change that really stuck with me from Justice Corps.
But it's just a 6-month program.
It's just a
How does that
6 month
make it-
program, but one thing that I can say, the 15-week first part of the cycle, one thing that I can say in those 15 weeks, I've learned more, or just about the same. I learned more concrete things that can help me in life than in high school. Honestly, like balancing a checkbook, utilizing my 401k, doing my taxes, all of these stuff that I need in order to survive, especially in New York City.
And most of the kids in the neighborhood or people that you grew up with, they didn't know that. And
No.
those who aren't in the program, what happens to them?
Those who aren't in the program have us. We're out there with those pamphlets. We're out there giving out Know Your Rights
That's well
training.
put.
We're out there giving out the workshops on how to balance your checkbook, on how to balance your budget. That's what we have here for. What good is the knowledge that we're getting from the Justice Corps if we're not sharing it?
So we were talking a little bit about this before the program. Where does the program go to here? You're starting your own, in effect, Speak Up, Clean Up, which is outside of the Justice Corps
Yes.
framework.
So for the first 15 weeks, we do these workshops, many different workshops, cognitive decision making, thinking for change, and many others. And along those lines, we start thinking about what our community project is going to be. What hits home to us? What does our community very well needed? In our community, we noticed that it was a pollution and police brutality and a lot of people not knowing their rights. So that's where we based our community-based project on.
And how does this change that? I mean, you talk about people knowing their rights. You talk about police brutality and the economic issues that face the community. How can one program do that without support from everybody else?
Because just like what I just said of the thinking for change, it takes me from that employee mind state to the boss mind state. I could say that for myself, and I could say that for 15 to 20 of my peers. We've all changed our mind state of like, wow, we don't want to work for anybody else. If I want to work for anybody, it's going to be my peers. If I want to work for anybody, it's going to be us. We're all going to work together as a boss, as one. And how it can change is that it gives us a new sense of confidence. Now that we know our rights, now when the police come down and they want to bother us or anything of the sort, we have a few simple words. Am I being detained or am I free to go? If we know we have not committed any crimes, and now it comes to where we have either our life coach's card in our pocket, we have the ACLU, Youth Represents, Brooklyn Defenders. We have
So
resources
has that
now.
happened? Have you had tough interactions with the police or other community leaders in the neighborhood?
Yes, in the subway station, they set up tables to do random bag checks.
Or the check?
Now, when you're on the subway, it makes an announcement. Anybody that rides the subway is subjected to a search. Now, subjected does not mean that I have to. I have the right to say no. I'm exiting the train station. Usually, they stop people entering the train station. Out of all people that's leaving the train station, they decide to stop me. I don't commit any crimes. I don't carry any drugs. I don't carry any weapons. I came home from a long day's work. I said, officer, no. He said, why? I said, officer, am I being free or am I being detained or am I free to go? He said, just hold on for a second. No problem. I know my rights. I have my cards in my pocket if I need to make any call. The training that I got in Justice Corps helped me out with that. I'm just hoping that in the future we could meet with the police so they could get the same thinking for change and cognitive training.
You're not by any chance planning to go to law school next, are you?
Me go to law school? No, but I do plan on getting into politics. We got to be in it to win it, right?
Into politics.
Into politics.
Meaning?
Meaning I would like to start off as a community board member, then I'll go to the city council, and we'll just see where it goes after that.
Justice Corps is one part of community change, but obviously it's not the major part. I mean, so much else has to change in the community to make people in them live up to the dreams and the values
Yes, of
they have.
course. And
so what else? I mean, how does Justice Corps fit into that larger goal?
how does it fit? It fits in because every 6 months is a different cycle, right? So if my cycle is still out there putting in the work on the streets, and we have another cycle in the streets doing something maybe similar but maybe different. It's all about consistency and all about perception. Perception is everything. If the community members see us out there consistently making a change, people may feel safer. People may change the idea of the stigma that they may already have on us. You know?
I guess what I'm getting at, I mean, for as long as I can remember, there have always been anti-poverty programs.
Mm-hmm.
In New York, there's been youth empowerment programs. I mean, going back decades.
Mm-hmm.
And things have changed a little bit, but not a huge amount. Why would you expect things to change now?
Because Justice Corps offers so much more than what those organizations, with all due respect, they were offering programs and resources to people who may have not had it. But Justice Corps, I can honestly say, is one of the best ATD programs in New York City.
ADT is what?
ADT is Alternative to Detention Programming. So there's basically a court advocate that goes out from every alternative detention program, that goes out there, reviews the case, see if it's low level, high level, however it is. They talk to the judge, they talk to the lawyers, and we try to get everybody we can, honestly.
How did you get into the program to begin with? Were you screened? That's one of the issues of the program, is that people are screened before they get in.
So
were you in trouble with the law yourself?
One of the prerequisites of joining the Justice Corps program is that you have to have justice involvement, whether it's with Family, Supreme, or Criminal Court. I had a case against the NYPD. I went to a protest, and the NYPD officer actually tried to say that I hit him. Now, I was a learning coach, and my job was gone, and I was in a rough place. One of my mentors actually put me onto the program. He's like, yo, you can learn a lot while you're going under the suspension. I want you to take this program and just get the best out of it.
So there was an interview process first where you spoke to someone at Justice Corps and they said, all right, well, you're in, or not?
There's an interviewing process before the first part of the 15-week cycle begin. I went into Justice Corps. I saw so many murals, so many pictures, so many collages of people just really having fun. This looked like a real safe space. And you know, like I said, I was in a tough spot in my life, especially after that case. Seeing that I didn't do anything.
How old were you then?
I was, 20 when that happened. And I was actually, earlier this year, after completing the Justice Corps program, Youth Represents, shout out to them, they actually expunged my case. They did everything in their power to make sure that case did not hinder me anymore, because it has hindered me for so long, especially seeing that I didn't do anything.
So where are you now?
I'm a learning coach at PS 241 for an enrichment program called HOPE.
PS 241 is where?
In Brooklyn, New York, on Franklin and President.
All right.
I work for HOPE, Haitians Americans for United for Progress. It's a beautiful enrichment program. We teach STEM and literacy. And I have my babies, the kindergartners, right now.
Fantastic, thanks. No.
And I can't either.
So let me close maybe with a question I started with. 6 months from now, if I were going out to Bed-Stuy, what would I see? What do I expect to see? Would I expect to see the same as you're describing now, or more people out there, or
no?
Hopefully we'll still be there.
You will see us going. Once again, you'll see us cleaning up the streets, handing out the pamphlets, laughing with community members, having fun. I remember every Tuesday and Thursday when we used to go out there, one team will be on one side of the street, the other team will be on the other side of the street. It's like we were having competition of who's going to get the most bags, who's going to pass out the most pamphlets, who's least going to have pamphlets on the floor on the way coming back. And I could honestly say there's never been pamphlets on the floor. Once people read it, once people see what we're about, they want to join. They want to continuously be a part of us, and it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. I'm actually gaining ownership of your community.
Lou, I want to look for you 6 months from now.
And I'm going
Great
to do
to
the
have
same,
you.
brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining
Have a
us.
beautiful day.
A key to the Justice Corps' success is the close involvement of community groups and advocates who work with the participants from the moment they join the program. To tell us more about the community role, we've invited Monique De La Hoz, who's the Senior Director for Learning and Careers at Phipps Houses in the Bronx. Monique, great to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
So what do we see when we see a Justice Corps group in the Bronx?
Okay, so our model is a 16-week model where participants come in for 1 week, which is called our orientation period. And during this time, they have an opportunity to test the program out and to get an understanding of the staff, the sites, and the work that they'll be doing. And then afterwards, they do a 15-week, what is called Community Benefit Service Project. And that's when they're going offsite into the community and doing their work. During that time frame, during the 15 weeks, if a participant, let's say, needs to get their HSE, which is the new term for GED right now, they have an opportunity that they can go to classes. We do life and career counseling. We also have technology classes. There's vocational training that takes place. Our participants get an OSHA credential for OSHA 10 and OSHA 30, which is an employment credential that they can utilize, all during the 15 weeks. And then afterwards, they have 8 weeks where it's follow-up services or retention services, and that's when they graduate from our program, and then we determine what type of placement that they need, and our staff follow up with them on a weekly basis to make sure that whether it's the job or it's the credential that they want to get or they want to go to college, that we're able to support them in that capacity. But all in all, it's a 16-week model.
So we've been talking about what Justice Corps means to the people who are participating in it. What does it mean to the community?
Well, I think that for the community, it's about transformation. Many of our students that come into the program are obviously with us to get a second chance. And part of the community benefit service projects that they do within Justice Corps is they have an opportunity to really restore and renovate and reinvigorate the community at large. And the way that they do that is by doing different types of projects where students go in and they do community mapping. So many of the programs in Justice Corps throughout the city are in impoverished neighborhoods. So we're looking for communities, for daycares, the churches, the small local communities, the gardens that really need support. And the students do a community mapping project and they determine what the need is. So for example, if they were to go to a church, they see that the community center is dilapidated in the church. So the students go in, they meet with the pastor there and determine what the needs are, and then they get trained and they have an opportunity to present to a community advisory board. That's representation of elected officials, of different business owners and members of the community, where they have to present a project to them. And in that part, they have to also present a PowerPoint presentation. They have to do budgets. And they also, they learn hard and soft skills through that process, public speaking. They present it to the board, and then they decide this is the community that they're going to work in. So if it's a garden, the students go in and we have all of the supplies for them, and they do the work within those communities.
So there's a direct physical benefit. The
Yes.
community sees the change when these young people come in. What about the benefits, the impact that you don't really see? You've been in the community at Phipps Neighborhoods for
Yes.
a long time. So before Justice Corps came along, or even now, what you usually understand are that people in the community are kind of looking at these kids and they see them as troublemakers
Yep.
and they don't want them in the neighborhood.
It's a stigma.
And there's a stigma about it. So, what is it? Do the community residents or the leaders, or the residents themselves, do they really feel confident that things have changed among the young people themselves, so that they're now part of the community other than sort of strangers or troublemakers?
Yeah, I think that specifically for Phipps Neighborhoods, because we're in the Bronx, right now we have about 74 out of 160 community benefit service projects that have taken place between 2008 and 2016. So within the Bronx and the South Bronx in particular, I would say our program is very well known, and much of the work that we do is also through word of mouth. So many of the churches may speak to other churches, or the daycare centers are speaking to other people within the community, so that they're able to put the word out there and basically bring back home what it is that the participants need to do. So it's not just about them coming in to do restoration work, they're mentoring our participants. In essence, in some cases,
Community members are mentoring.
Yes, they're definitely mentoring the participants, because you think about it, to go back to what you were saying about the stigma. Many times, these are young people that are on probation, that are on parole, that have made a mistake in life. And sometimes people don't see it as a simple mistake. And they have an opportunity to get to know the person. They have an opportunity to get to know the group and to figure out what it is that they can do to support them. And in some cases, some of the community benefit service projects have hired our students. In addition to that, they, as I mentioned, do the word of mouth. So it is something that I feel as though transforms lives, not just for the participants, but also for the people, the recipients of the service that we do.
One of the concepts that seems to underlie programs like Justice Corps, it's restorative justice. So where the people who did harm to the community are now repairing the harm, whether it's repairing the harm against individuals or repairing the harm against buildings they've defaced or put graffiti on or drop litter on or whatever. So let me put on a skeptical hat. I mean, the ordinary person walking the streets in Phipps neighborhoods or in the South Bronx, is he really going to believe that these kids who he thought of as troublemakers have really changed and that he really feels that he's a lot safer and a lot more comfortable in the community with these kids around?
Yeah, so I think that first and foremost, change and life in general is a transforming process. It's not something that happens overnight, right? So for the Justice Corps program, it's 6 months that we're able to touch the lives of these participants, right?
That's just 6 months.
It is 6 months, but believe it or not, through some of the interventions that we have, like cognitive behavior therapy, right? The young people are understanding who they are, they're understanding the mistakes that they made and how they would react differently, you know, whether it's their attitude or whether it's, you know, how they come across to someone. So as it pertains to the community members, I think that it is something that over time, you change the community. So again, for Phipps, we've been in the community going on 9 years right now. So I think that there's definitely some momentum that's built there so that the community members know who we are. So for example, if I have a group of 20 young people that are in a cohort, for some, that may look like a gang, right? Especially if they're coming in dressed in gear, but they see that they have their hard hats on because, you know, they're going to work. So it definitely changes, and I think people feel safer in the community. But it is something that over time has shifted. And I think that it's something that's going to continue to shift as people see the work that those students are doing. So whether it's the mural that they're doing in the school, whether it's community service that they're doing and giving out information on benefits, you know, at a food pantry, or they're preparing bags or food, I think that the community members do, in fact, have an opportunity to engage with them.
So you're saying these are more than just feel-good projects?
Oh,
they
this is definitely
make a change that lasts in the community?
Definitely.
Do we need more of these?
I mean, in my ideal world, definitely. I think that, you know, the more young people that we serve, the better. Over time, unfortunately, due to, you know, different budgetary constraints, we haven't had the ability to serve more participants, or there's been budget cuts in that capacity.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What's blocking programs like the Justice Corps from being in every neighborhood in the city?
So I think, I mean, that's politics. I don't know if we want to get into the politics of it now.
You're not afraid of politics.
Okay, yeah. So I think that I go back to the stigma again of everything that you're talking about. You know, does this program really make change in participants' lives, right? And I think the other part of this is about recidivism rates, right? So we want to make sure that our participants, that when they graduate 3 years down the road, that they don't have a new conviction, you know, that they don't have a new arrest that they're dealing with. So I think that from that capacity, the more young people that are engaged in programs, the lower the recidivism rates that are going to be, because our young people are engaged. And not only that, then they're having their meaningful life. They're determining, what is it that I want to do with my life? Do I want to get a credential and get a job? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to do a vocational training program? And it gives them an opportunity to do that. And in some cases, the young people didn't have that chance or that opportunity to go through that door to make that happen.
This is a great story to tell, but what's preventing this from happening around the city? You mentioned budget constraints.
Yeah, so I think that right now this program is still new. Even though it's been around since 2008, it's gone through 3 different iterations of the program design. And I think that this year, well, actually we're 1 year into it now, is where the program is solid. And now there's a pitch to the city to expand, you know, the budget and to expand the amount of people that we're serving. So it's not just one Bronx site, one Manhattan, in Harlem, in Queens, and in Brooklyn, but that it's really in all the areas that need it the most. And I think that for us, you know, we're in the poorest congressional district in the Bronx. So we chose to put Justice Corps in that program because that's our mission for Phipps, right? To combat poverty. So we want to go into the communities where the young people live, and we want to make that happen. And I think that the successes of our programs overall is giving us an opportunity to pitch that to the city so that we can increase our budgets and we can increase the amount of young people that are being served.
And what have you heard? What's the response you've gotten so far?
So right now, we're here. We're still here. We have young people that you're meeting with. So that's definitely positive. And right now, the budget is sustained. So that means basically we're able to continue the work that we're doing, but we need to build on those successes and making sure that our young people get those outcomes and that they're not getting locked up again, so that we can continue building and getting more grants so that we can serve the community at large.
So you think 5-10 years from now, the programs like Phipps are going to be duplicated around the city?
Definitely. I mean, we're going already now on 9 years of doing it, so I don't see why we wouldn't do it for another 9 or 20 moving forward. It's important, and it's definitely a service that's needed in the community at large.
What got you into this to begin with?
So me personally, I have a passion to do this work, and I've had the luxury and the opportunity to manage the Justice Corps program in the Bronx. I have a 14-year-old son, and my son is one that I want to make sure that he understands the options that he has in life. And I think that many times young people don't have that positive mentor. They don't have that resource that they need. They don't have that toolkit, right? Whether it's for wanting to get a job or having that portfolio. And I think my job is to make sure that they're prepared to do that, so that whether we're hiring them or whether it's a different employer that's hiring them, that they have that opportunity. And I think that that's truly how we combat poverty, one person at a time. And for FIPS is really thinking about the family and thinking about the household at large. So for me, it's I think that's the formula to success: education and a job. And I think many times people don't have the opportunities to do that.
That age, 14 and 15, is the hardest to convince that
I know.
something that's not boring, that doesn't involve electronics,
I know.
and doesn't involve being out in the streets with your friends.
Yeah, but the good thing is, well, at least as it pertains to my son, I keep him in check with that. But I also have him come to the sites and, speak to the young people. And I think it's a great opportunity for all. But at least for me, the root to why I do this is to give young people an opportunity. And I think that the participants that are court involved, so again, probation, coming out of Rikers, they're currently on parole. Many times people don't even think twice to speak to them, or to figure out what's their history. And I think that that's why this program exists, because it's about the community, it's about the individual and working with them and getting them to that next place, no matter what it is. As I mentioned, it's very individualized in that capacity, so that everybody gets to do what they want to do and then sustain it. And I think that's the hardest part about it.
Monique, thanks so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you very much for having me. Thank you.
The Justice Corps falls under a category that criminologists call restorative justice. It's one of many innovative approaches to rethinking the entire justice system. For young people in particular, that means making things right with the communities they live in. LaRue and Monique show us that restoring justice in our communities isn't just an empty slogan. I'm Steve Handelman. Thanks for watching. See you next time.